Terrarian in the Dungeon, Chapter 15, Fan Fiction by Azazyel. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel for listening and patreon.com/Azazyel to read all of his stories. Whether it was the slime kings we killed or the couple of Desert Scrouges we summoned, I quickly learned a very important fact. Bwahaha, the brat summoned monsters will focus on killing him above all others, haha. Loki hysterically laughed as she held on to Bete for dear life and pointed at me while she was laughing, and I couldn't help but pout. As even Freya and Seshat found my suffering funny enough to giggle at the sight of myself having to flee for my life, due to the massive Desert Scrouge trying to devour me while ignoring the likes of Ais and Ottar tearing large chunks of its flesh apart with each blow. Well, it is a load off our minds to have proof that he cannot control said monster Rexes. Now let's get to the real fun. These goodie bags were it. Freya spoke as Ottar, and that blonde elf named Hayden respectfully laid the bags in front of the goddess on a couple of tables that the Loki and Freya familia members dragged up on top of Orario's city walls. My lady, would you care to inspect our rewards? Hayden asked as he took his position to the right of his goddess while Ais and Finn went back to Loki's table, but only Finn handed over his goodie bags to Loki. Azazyel. Come on, gimme the goodie bags or it's like back when Freya always got more Christmas presents back in Tenkai. Loki all but petulantly bawled as she made grabby hands at the half-dozen boss reward bags Ais was carrying in her hands. No. I want to open them. Ais replied, and with the way she held her new tungsten sword I could tell she was considering if she was going to need to once again brain her perverted childish goddess over the head with the pommel of her sword. Why am I not surprised Loki was the unwanted red-headed stepchild back in Tenkai, I whispered to Seshat as I gave her a slime king and Desert Scrouge bag to be nice, and although Loki and Freya couldn't hear my whisper, but Finn and Gareth could. And they burst into chuckles, making Loki whirl around and ask what was so funny. It's nothing important, goddess, now let's open these bags. The bosses aren't that useful to us old-timers, but for the new blood. This will set the trend of Orario, as we cannot hide this at all. Gareth said, nodding in the distance towards the Babel Tower, and I realized that Freya likely wasn't the only one who had ways of monitoring Orario. Alright. Let's start with the slime stuff. Hee. I wonder if I will get a slime gun that can melt Ace's clothes. Hee. Loki literally drooled while cackling like a dirty old man. Ace took an exaggerated step away from her goddess that was more of a leap than a step towards me and Seshat with a look of utmost disgust, and even Riveria looked ready to bring her staff down upon Loki's head. There actually is a slime gun that has a weak acidic effect. I spoke weakly and I saw Loki's closed eyes slowly open as she stared at me. You better lock your doors, Jake, or you may have this goddess stealing you away with my bodies. Wiles, so I don't even have to do a wargame, haha. Loki joked, but with the way her slit eyes looked at me, I was more than aware her little joke was possibly more dangerous than Freya's current interests. But then as Loki opened up the pillowcase-sized goodie bag and all the stuff dropped onto the table in front of her as the bag disappeared into nothingness, the whole top of the city wall went deadly silent as Loki lasered in on and reverently lifted an object that made me feel pure dread. She lifted it with all the care of a mother cradling their baby. She held it above her head as though it was an idol worthy of worship despite her being an actual goddess. She got the damned slime super soaker that had a weak acid. Now it did no damage, and in Terraria that would be it. But here in Danmachi where everything had stupid things like durability and could break down after time. Beware all beauties of Orario, Loki has arrived. Bwahaha. Loki joyously screamed as she somehow recognized what the super soaker was and how to use it, and thus, with no shame, she sprayed it in the direction of Ais and Riveria, who screamed a feminine cry at the most based of betrayals. Don't look at Lady Riveria. Hayden, Hogan, and all the elves said righteously after Freya gave them a nod, and all the elves, regardless of gender or familia, crowded around Riveria with the ladies in the center and the men on the outside so none could peer past their forms. But Ace didn't have an entire race of people that simple for her, and thus we all got to see her white dress, like out of some kind of hentai, literally melt off of her. How bold. Seshat clapped seeing Ace wasn't wearing a bra under her thick battle dress. Here Ace, I said as I opened up my own loot bag and luckily got the ninja torso armor. Ace grabbed the throne armor piece and after a moment of hesitation she pulled it over her head, and I caught a flash of pink as her arm that was covering her chest dipped out of the way. Loki. You're dead. Ace spoke with a visible tick to her eyebrow as Loki was wrestled by Finn and Gareth and got the slime gun taken away. So, Jake, other than stripping people of their clothes, does this slime gun have any other use? Freya asked as she folded her hands in front of her face. Yes, anyone who has been shot by the slime gun is, quite a bit more flammable, as slime is a very flammable product, to put lightly. So Ace and Riveria, I suggest you go take a shower once this is all complete, I explained, and Freya nodded, but before I could continue, I was knocked forward as my armor rating took a small dip. Huh, I have a mount. And it's so squishy. Seshat cried out as she opened her own bag and actually got the slime mount that summoned a large beach ball-sized slime that had a saddle upon it, and she was just hopping around childishly without care while I went to give Ace a shirt. I think it's best we reconvene in a few hours at the Hostess of Fertility. I will rent it out tonight, that way everyone can let all this fun sink in. And thus, we can meet together with calmer heads. Finn called out with a wry smile, as too much had happened and was still happening all at once. Because in the last 2 minutes, 2 beauties got their clothes melted. A couple of elves of the Loki familia were trying to strangle Loki, and I was trying to chase Seshat around, who refused to get off her damn mount. Riveria then pushed herself out of the throng of lady elves that surrounded her. Yes. I need a shower and a bath. Finn, you can deal with the details. Ace and I are leaving now. Riveria said, laying an arm around Ace's shoulder and directing the clearly embarrassed girl off the city wall. I realized that Ace's legs were almost pretty clearly on display as well, which could explain her embarrassment. So, while I wrangled my goddess off the damn slime mount and almost got broken bones for my effort, as a cat goddess didn't like to be taken from her perch, who could have guessed that? Anyway, after Loki was trussed up in some ropes the Loki familia got from somewhere, we all went on our separate ways. While Freya walked away with her familia with grace. Yeah, I wish. Why you two following us? I asked with some confusion, as Tioni, the Loki captain's Amazon waifu pet, and one of Freya's hooded Gulliver brothers were following us quite openly. I am escorting you home under the request of my lady Freya. Please continue on home, Jake of the Seshat familia. The Gulliver brother spoke, and Tioni nodded. I mean, you guys already know where I live, and I doubt people got enough info to start an attack within not even a half an hour after the little demonstration, I complained, but I held my obviously irritated goddess's dusky skin-toned hand as she obviously wanted to snap something at the 2 higher-level adventurers that were escorting us home. You don't know the tricks all the deities of Orario have when it comes to gathering juicy little bits of information, Tioni muttered as she kept an eye seemingly atop the many buildings that surrounded us in search of archers or something, despite us still being surrounded by the later morning crowds of people going about their business on the streets of Orario. Taking that bit of information to heart, as soon as me and Seshat got home, Tioni and the Gulliver, who wouldn't answer who he was, both left to go about their business. While we were supposed to meet at the Hostess of Fertility, I asked about the stores around Seshat's shop. Oh, those shops, I bought all that out, but without a familia I haven't gotten around to building it up yet. Why ask? Seshat asked, but then frowned as I pulled her out of her store. Seshat, help me make an impervious house not even Ottar could break into, haha. I chuckled quietly, and I violently shivered as a previously unfelt gaze seemingly tightened on me. Right. Anyway, I am just going to make a shell to surround your shop so people cannot launch magic or something at it. I said as I symbolically put on a miner's hat with a flashlight atop it, making Seshat blink in surprise at the sight, and then I quickly used some of the large quantity of stone I got from the dungeon that was actually completely normal stone without any dungeon monster spawning effects to build a large 1-block thick wall around Seshat's shop, tearing through the nearby shops with a pickaxe like they were nothing and also getting more building resources. Then, to give myself plenty of room after making the large box of stone walls, I put a kind of stone pyramid atop with glass making up the last couple layers so a good bit of natural light could still come in.